Here it is, the list of my top 10 favorite movies of 2015. As always, coming to you just over a full year late on account of me caring about the quality of my list more than its timeliness. This time last year, I hadn't seen half the movies in my top 10 because it takes time and effort to catch all the independent, foreign, and limited release films that I feel I should watch before declaring my best of. I now feel I've finished the 2015 movie year and can definitively call these my favorites, which again, these are my favorites. I allow myself more leeway in these videos than others in that it's not necessarily ranked by best, more so by my personal preference. Still, any movie worth mentioning for any reason will make an appearance. So without further ado, I present my belated list of favorite 2015 films, starting with number 10. Fury Road, what can I say? It's glorious. The stunts, the sets, the rigs, the lore, glorious. George Miller has reintroduced a rare world I'm anxious to revisit where lunacy reigns supreme, and this serves as the perfect vessel to incredible action sequences. From a technical standpoint, the thing is practically flawless, and the story is perfectly adequate. The movie's true charm lies in that it's well executed enough to justify its odd flair. It runs with its unique logic and appealing bizarreness until it becomes something unlike anything else. More than just the Fast and the Furious meets I Am Legend, it's its own thing, and that thing offers some of the highest caliber action ever put to screen. Wild Tales is one of those movies that's difficult to place, year-wise. It was obviously completed and initially released in 2014, and it was nominated at the 87th Academy Awards, but then it received a limited release in the US in 2015, which is the year Metacritic listed under, and I generally go by their ruling. Anyway, for this list, Wild Tales is a 2015 film, and what really matters is that it's a great movie. The flick consists of 6 independent short stories connected in that they all have people taking extreme action under stressful circumstances. They show individuals in extreme situations and explore how they react. Obviously, some episodes are better than others, but they're all well realized, not one of them is poor, and as a whole, the thing comes together quite nicely. The entire film is well executed technically and enjoyable enough that I feel comfortable recommending it to just about anyone. I appreciate that each segment keeps with a loose common theme but remains distinct. Every one of them has a unique appeal and underlying idea behind it. Throughout, it's easy to get wrapped up in the thing because of the strength of the performances and movie itself, in addition to each episode being expertly paced. On top of that, there's an appealing element of dark humor and over-the-topness that makes the film especially entertaining. The Trial of Vivien is an infuriating experience. It portrays an Israeli woman attempting to acquire consent for a divorce, which must be offered by her husband, who is anything but cooperative. As events unfold, the impracticality of the system is brought into focus, and the trial builds to lunacy. Even though this isn't the most visually ambitious of films, its story is emotional, engaging, and significant. And there are still deliberate choices made with the camera that make for a more interesting movie, and it incorporates subtle elements of significance to the culture that further add to the flick. As best I can tell, not speaking Hebrew or Arabic, the performances are solid, and I can comfortably say there are brilliant moments where actors aren't speaking at all. At the end of the day, Get is a strong courtroom drama that's significant beyond the drama. The Force Awakens is possibly the most culturally aware movie ever made. Given the context of its release, it's a perfect film, catering to fans both old and new, and simultaneously reinvigorating a dying franchise, quality-wise. There are hundreds of ways this project could have gone horribly wrong, but in every major instance, the right decision was made, from the amount older characters were incorporated to employing more practical special effects to bringing on director J.J. Abrams. Even in instances where a soft reboot might have hurt this film, from a franchise perspective, the smart move was to recycle elements from the original trilogy for the sake of re-establishing Star Wars as an exciting, fun, charismatic, and awe-inspiring saga. And The Force Awakens is a fantastic blockbuster that's without without a dull moment. Projects of this magnitude have a tendency to collapse on themselves, but when they work out to the degree Episode 7 does, they offer spectacle and scale that no indie film could ever hope to match. In things like special effects, sets, animatronics, and sound design, the quality The Force Awakens maintains is of the highest tier. That we can so convincingly be taken to a galaxy far, far away at the mere cost of your firstborn son is incredible. But again, this film deserves the most praise at the studio level. The amount of care that went into crafting this thing shows in the result. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, it was exactly what we needed. As a movie lover, it was good in its own right. I hope you all realize that this is Iron Man. We have 1 or 2 more movies until these things become formulaic, non-risk-taking pieces of shit. But hey, here's to hoping I'm wrong, and The Force Awakens is great. 45 years left me in a serious funk. This movie is absolutely harrowing, but it achieves this through remarkable subtlety. Distress is expressed in impatience with a party planner. Growing contempt is felt in Kate's slight facial expressions. This film has its dramatic moments for sure, but it'll thrust you into melancholy along with its characters through little details. The director seems to have a deep understanding of how people of age tend to behave and how a couple of this seniority might interact, making for quite a convincing film, further brought to life by a couple fantastic understated performances. Here, the actor's ability and context of certain scenes merit the cliche looking off into the distance, pondering one's life as the camera slowly moves in scene. Here, that scene has weight, is interesting, and is perfectly justified. And of course, the movie is fundamentally well executed. This is the quality level I'm hoping for every time I go into an independent film. And it's been selected for a Criterion release coming March 7th, to which I say, yes please. I also love the slight allusion to the possibility that as events unfold, the characters are not only figuratively, but literally haunted by the ghost of Katya. If this looks like the kind of movie you enjoy, know that it is fantastic. As much as I hate to side with the New York Post's Kyle Smith on anything really, the end of the tour is a fantastic look into the minds and philosophies of 2 individuals, particularly that of author David Foster Wallace, portrayed here by Jason Segel. It's kind of a My Dinner with Andre sort of movie in that it consists mostly of 2 very interesting people having a series of conversations about big topics, the opposite of small talk. And for that, it's going to lose some people, but I find their insights and conversations stirring and profound. The comments made about depression, excess, and suicide are not only well said and engaging, but eye-opening. The wisdom of Wallace offered here is abundant and weighty enough to incorporate the film as a sacred article of one's philosophy, or start a religion if one should feel so inclined. It'd be more than possible. While Jason Segel is the biggest part of the film to appreciate, it's unfair to discount Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of extra neurotic Jesse Eisenberg. He makes decent contributions as well, and is in no way a detriment to the flick. He's big boy to Segal's Andre 3K, but without him, the movie isn't a conversation, it's a TED Talk. But as it stands, it's a fascinating film, and I appreciate that the movie doesn't cloud its own greatness with too much flair. In this circumstance, impressive shots or a wild montage cut to a banger track would have detracted from the experience. The artistic choices taken are appropriate, and the soundtrack is solid. I believe that the use of Brian Eno's The Big Ship is better here than in Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, which it's an affecting piece of music on its own, made more meaningful in the alleged love that real-life David Foster Wallace had for the track. Anyway, if you're looking for something profound and some interesting dialogue, here you go. Next is Shaun the Sheep movie. If the works of Charlie Chaplin are great films, then Shaun the Sheep movie is one of 2015's best. It's light fun, but ridiculously intricate and well made. The ways the story is conveyed visually are so creative, yet well executed that the lack of dialogue feels completely natural. The team behind this film figuratively threw themselves in the deep end of the pool of creativity, and in that situation did anything but sink. This movie is creative as hell. The stop motion is practically flawless, and Shaun the Sheep movie has widespread appeal across ages and languages. And yet, despite a lack of dialogue, the film finds ways to make you feel for its silly little characters and their stupid adventure. No shit, I was more invested in Shaun the Sheep finding the farmer and getting his fellow sheep friends back home safely than the story of one of the most likable actors working today battling against the odds to get back home from fucking Mars. If you're biased against the movie because it's children's entertainment, well, that's just silly. This isn't Dora the Explorer, it's a near masterpiece of slapstick and visual storytelling. Sure, Shaun the Sheep movie appeals to children, but I wouldn't dare call it juvenile. Any open-minded adult should be able to enjoy this just as well as a child because of its quality. And now we're to the standard intermission where movies of note outside the core top 10 get their minute. Know that these honorable mentions are in no particular order. Straight Outta Compton is more than just a crowd pleaser and an absurdly entertaining biopic. It's a good movie in its own right, released at an appropriate moment in history. It speaks to the importance of free speech and offers a peek at the way success and money influences. The actors absolutely nail their roles, and not just physically. For all intents and purposes, that's Ice Cube to me. Some appreciation, or at least respect for hip-hop is necessary to like or get this flick, but coming from that perspective, I think it portrays the significance of this group and their music quite well. And the soundtrack is simply pure gold. The best mindfuck of 2015 is Predestination. Shyamalan, take note, this movie might not add up perfectly, but it's excellently paced in the way things are revealed. And its visual style is pretty slick. You'll either love it or hate it, but I think it's great. It Follows made a pretty big splash on its release, and deservedly so. Its concept is brilliant, its feel is solid, and it's backed up by dozens of little details that make for a more rewarding experience. As far as indie horror goes, this thing is exceptional, and a nice homage to horror films of the 70s and 80s. I love gangster movies, and the best gangster film of the year was Black Mass. That Matt Damon could get nominated for a mediocre portrayal of Mark Watney and Johnny Depp's performance here was overlooked is absurd. He portrays a disgusting, chilling character who remains convincing throughout the flick. Even in moments where the script falters, the talents of the people behind this project keeps it alive and engaging. In a world where every marketable property only exists to be harvested through a soulless film adaptation by a greedy corporation, it's nice to have something as genuine as the Peanuts movie. This film is bursting with creative ideas and strikes a nice balance between satisfying fans and being a decent flick. If you've never been exposed to any of the characters from the comic strip or TV specials, this film is all you need as an introduction to the many adorable personalities Peanuts has to offer. Charlie Brown is one tragic character, but his eternal optimism is heartwarming, and through its presence here, the essence of Schultz comics is captured. The Hateful Eight is Tarantino's most indulgent film to date. The director is known to try new things, experiment, and fulfill his personal vision of what makes for a good film in his projects. But The Hateful Eight takes things a step further with its excessive violence, lengthy runtime, and awful director cameo of sorts. I have a suspicion that one or two characters found their way into the film merely to bring the total up to 8 for the director's 8th film. Hate, 8, 8th. Give me a break. That said, Tarantino has yet to even make a mediocre film, and many of the Hateful Eight's risks pay off big time. With the exception of Channing Tatum, the cast is pretty solid, and the tale told holds one's attention with an iron grip. It's refreshing to watch a movie where you truly don't know where the story will go next. Plus, the film's overture is fantastic. Despite its baggage, The Hateful Eight is a good watch. Beasts of No Nation, you know, that one movie released through Netflix that everyone says you should watch but you haven't, it's good. This is not a fun movie, but it's praiseworthy in other ways. For one, it's shocking and uncompromising, offering an idea of how a child could be convinced to do such awful things. We're given a sense of how it feels to be part of a gang like this. Idris Elba gives a strong performance, and The Jungle lends itself well to cinematography. I saw a Swedish film that's title translates to A Pigeon Sat on a Branch Reflecting on Existence. It's composed of a series of absurdist vignettes captured in long, static wide shots wherein bizarre things occur. It's hard to say what exactly the movie is about. I mean, it frequently revisits two old men trying to sell novelty items, and I have a couple ideas about what it might be getting at, but all I really know is that I kind of love it. And I suppose that's a nice transition to my two guilty pleasures of 2015, which are by no means bad, but I believe I enjoyed them more for personal reasons than their actual quality. Krampus is a movie I loved for how absurdly cynical it is, and it boasts some decent creature design and special effects. And Furious 7 offers an incredible series of action sequences and set pieces, and is just dumb entertainment that's easy to enjoy. Critics of The Revenant will concede that it's visually brilliant. What they fail to acknowledge is that it is among the most breathtakingly gorgeous films ever shot. I would dare to say that this is one of the top 3 most beautiful films I've seen so far out of over 900 watches in total. And much of its serious competition comes from other projects Emmanuel Lubezki, Revenant's director of photography, has worked on. So incredible is The Revenant's cinematography that the Academy was all but forced to do something they hate in awarding the DP his 3rd consecutive Oscar over the work of master Roger Deakins, who has now received 13 nominations without a win. If anyone is overdue for a Lifetime Achievement Award, Deakins is the man. And Sicario was a damn good-looking movie, but it would have been an outrage were the award to go to anything but The Revenant. Lubezki's style and knack for the art allow for a truly immersive experience. The film's opening is riveting, shocking, and sets the tone for a hard but compelling tale. And I do believe The Revenant's story is compelling. If I sound defensive, it's because I've found myself arguing for this movie in nearly every discussion I've had of it. Apparently, some seem to feel that a tale of revenge-motivated triumph of the will or survival against the odds constitutes a weak plot. The Revenant is a story of what it takes to survive such tragedy, and it shows the ugly potential of hate as a motivator. To survive, Glass must become less than a man, like an animal, and such is the nature of hate and revenge. After Glass's trials, I can't imagine someone feeling nothing for him. Tom Hardy's character is utterly despicable and excellently portrayed. The world has not been kind to this man, and it shows in the intricacies of his performance. Likewise, Leo's acting is good. I don't know about Oscar-worthy, but it's more than sufficient. The Revenant is a movie of fundamental perfection that opens the door to greatness. Its technical impeccability elevates its material, making an already solid story better and a good movie great. Room is one of the most emotionally potent films I've ever experienced. It's a heart-wrenching movie with powerful moments that both crush one's soul and uplift. And all of this is presented tastefully. Never does the movie descend into melodrama, even though the option to do so is ever present. Room's emotional bite comes naturally through the unsensationalized presentation of tragically possible events. And that makes it all the more effective. Where the path of least resistance may entail focusing on the action or tension of certain scenes, the film chooses to instead accent their beauty, and this movie is truly beautiful. Any weakness comes in that the film isn't the strongest of narratives and maybe better suited to a novel, but to cut the movie just after its climax would be incongruent with the movie's sense of realism. It's important that we see how things play out so that Room doesn't become an implausible work of fiction where everything wraps up neatly. This kind of story doesn't have a happy ending, and it's important that the audience sees this. I'm struggling to avoid spoiling the thing and discussing its plot, so I'll move on. The performances here are nothing short of fantastic. Brie Larson portrays a vast array of emotions flawlessly, and Jacob Tremblay doesn't even seem to be acting. He must have a natural knack for this thing, and his performance is great, period. Not just great for a child actor. And that's Room. It's an inspiring film with a lot to appreciate about it. In avoiding spoilers, it's difficult to argue just how fantastic this movie really is, so just take my word for it. This flick will certainly make you feel something. It's brilliant. The Big Short is kind of a mess. It's scattered and sloppy, very seat of the pants, like a group of talented people had a month to write, shoot, and edit it. But it all fits. This film's visual style reflects what it's portraying perfectly. Mad respect to the people who found a legitimate excuse for the occasional shoddy composition and out-of-focus shot. When you're portraying the story of oddball geniuses faking their way to predicting an economic collapse, you can take your time and shoot it like every other film. It'll probably still get an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, but this creative choice brings the audience closer to the story and helps us feel more like how the characters do. Plus, it makes for a more interesting and exciting movie. The bit those promoting the film like to use was that The Big Short brought the housing market collapse down to a simple, digestible level, and that anyone would understand what happened perfectly after seeing this picture.
And you read the book, which is a really entertaining book, but you think, how are they going to break this stuff down so someone like me could actually understand it? And Adam does a really good job and does it in a really entertaining way.
More so, I think The Big Short turned a giant mess into an entertaining puzzle of sorts. The raw energy and charisma of the thing makes one want to know what's going on. And to boot, white sheets, statistics, and data reports turn into Margot Robbie in a bubble bath. To that, this movie also takes a lot of creative risks that pay off. Its documentary look adds legitimacy, its editing style adds flair. Every performance the movie has to offer is stellar from Bale to Gosling. Characters are interesting, entertaining, and well realized by talented actors. Even Brad Pitt's boring-ass character is improved with little details and slight things that give away inner paranoia. Furthermore, the movie is wildly entertaining. Characters are portrayed as honest, charismatic dudes taking on greedy corporations and ignorance from their humble garages. And it's easy to root for people in a David and Goliath sort of situation like that. We want to see them succeed, and they're interesting enough characters that we feel for their circumstances as they change. All in all, I find it very easy to praise The Big Short. On nearly every front it succeeds, from an engaging script to fantastic characters to great performances to clever editing choices to real-world relevance and educational value. It's funnier than anything Adam McKay has done before, and my personal #1 favorite movie of the year. And that's 2015, but once again, this is all just my opinion. Whether you agree or disagree with my picks, feel free to share your thoughts and individual lists in the comment section of this video. On screen now is a complete list of every movie I saw and considered for this video, and while I don't expect such to occur, should I have missed anything that deserves a mention and discover it sometime down the road, a link will appear here as well as in the description below, giving the film its moment. Thank you for watching this video, subscribe to catch more updates on The Binge, but for now, I'm afraid this is